true crime junkies, do I have a wild story for you. So I'm in charge of doing the social media for Left Coast Crime 2024 Seattle Shakedown. It's a convention for mystery readers and writers alike, crime fiction, and it's going to be held in Seattle next April. And I'm trying to find all sorts of interesting stories to get people intrigued to want to come to the convention and also to submit to our anthology, A Killing Rain, which submissions are due on September 3rd. So if you're interested in writing a short story, 2,000 to 5,000 words, that is set, it's a crime fiction story set in the Puget Sound region, you need to submit to A Killing Rain anthology. So while I'm looking for these videos to inspire people, I come across a clip from an old episode of Unsolved Mysteries, and it was set on the east side of Lake Washington. So our convention, while it's called Seattle Shakedown, is actually set in Bellevue, Washington. And the Unsolved Mysteries episode was about the murder of a man who worked for a Bellevue real estate company. And after watching the video, I was like, I need to know more about this story before I talk about it. And so I started digging deep, and the story got wilder and wilder as it went. I got gum stuck on the side of my mouth. Sorry. Anyway, so the story goes back to Seattle Hotel and Restaurant Employee Union President Mario Vaccarino, who was watching the Kansas City Royals and the St. Louis Cardinals in Game 5 of the World Series on October, I believe, 24th or 25th of 1984. Let's see, October 24th. I don't really know why. We know maybe his daughter had talked to him or something, but he was watching the game by himself. By the morning, by 9 a.m., his body was discovered. He was in the bathtub, face down. The water was running, and he had been savagely beaten to death. So in order to understand what the motive might possibly be for such a brutal crime, detectives looked to the fact that he was a union boss who was very outspoken and had some kind of inflammatory rhetoric. At the time, he was stirring up employees and members of the union to picket against Seattle hospitality and restaurant companies, particularly hotels and restaurants downtown. And it was getting a little bit dicey. He was trying to force unionization on companies that absolutely did not want that. And so it was very easy to think, well, this person could potentially be a target of somebody who was not happy with his activity. There was an interesting thing at the crime scene. His body was sprinkled with cheese, implying that perhaps it was something beyond just an unhappy company that had him killed, but that maybe it was a mob hit, because rumor had it that he was cooperating with an investigation out of Chicago into general union activity on the nationwide level of the union, and that perhaps he was squealing or ratting out the people in the union, therefore the Parmesan cheese sprinkled on his body. So those are the theories that they begin to work with as they're trying to solve this murder. I mean, he was in his bathrobe, fully clothed, face down, still in his pajamas, in the water, brutally beaten. The other thing that was interesting was that there were some things missing, and his car had been taken. No one had witnessed anyone going into his home or leaving his home, and no one had witnessed his car being taken away from the scene. His car was found several miles away, abandoned in a parking lot, and his wallet was found in plain sight in a strip club. So somebody had clearly, this wasn't a home invasion. They knew right away that this was not a home invasion, even though there were some jewelry missing, things like that. This was not a home invasion. So they think, we're going to figure this out, right? 27 years go by. 27 years. And they can't crack this case. And then in 2000, 2011, detectives working on a cold case of this Bellevue realtor from 2001 start to discover that there may be some connections, and his case gets solved. So what happened to the Bellevue realtor? In 2001, a man named, I had to look it up, Mike Emmert, a realtor who lived in Redmond, Washington, and was worked for Windermere, which is a local company here. I think they may have expanded nationwide now, but it started in Seattle. And he was like successful realtor, partnered with his wife, whose name was Mary Beth. And he was so successful that he was named Realtor of the Year. They were a power couple. And so when he was found dead, people suspected that perhaps it was related to his real estate prowess. I don't know. So his wife had spoken with him, and he had said that he had shown this man some properties the day before, and that he was coming back to show him some more and to go back to another home. And his name was Stephen, and it was written in his journal that Stephen was interested. He was moving from Northern California, and he was interested in looking at this home again, that up in Woodinville, Washington, which is just a little bit further north. And that's although he was coming from Northern California, that Stephen had an East Coast accent. He was in his 50s, but he seemed to have some sort of a limp and walked with a cane. The showing was supposed to be at around 11 a.m. Around noon, the owner of the home decides she's going to go to the house to have lunch. And as she's pulling into the driveway, she pulls into the garage, she goes into the home, and she sees that the front door's ajar, and she can hear water running upstairs. So she goes upstairs, and she sees a fresh trail of blood in her hallway, and she goes into the bathroom, where she discovers the body of Mike Emmert in the shower with the water running. He has been stabbed 19 times, and also the water at the sinks were running as well. So, of course, this is devastating, horrifying, and police immediately are like, well, his watch is missing. Nice watch. His diamond ring is missing. His car is missing from the scene, and his wallet is missing. But there's something about this that doesn't quite feel like a robbery. And his car was found in a parking lot nearby, and his wallet was found at the Coleman docks on top of a phone booth. So not even in the same place. So there's some interesting things as they're trying to figure out what happened to Mike Emmert. Of course, the first suspect in any case like this is the spouse, but they immediately ruled her out. And then they looked into this idea of maybe it was a rival realtor. Now, I know real estate can be cutthroat here in Seattle. I just can't imagine somebody killing another realtor, but you never know, right? But pretty soon they're not finding any leads on this case, except for one drop of blood in his car, which they send off for DNA testing. Now, in 2001, DNA testing is still a fairly new technology, but they expect that they're going to get a response or a match of some sort, and they don't. And they wait, and they wait. And pretty soon, 10 years have gone by, and they don't know what happened to Mike Emmert. But then there's a break in 2011 that pulls this whole thing together. And I'm going to have to do a part 2 because the story just keeps getting wilder and wilder.